Hey y'all, welcome back to the garden. We're just going to take a little walk around, and I was watering this day and wanted to show you some things. And when I went back to my video, there was no audio, so I'll just do a voiceover. We've got some pots here planted up for the fall crops. Not really sure what that one is, but the one on the other side of that fence is cauliflower. I think this one in the black pot is broccoli. And then, of course, we have my garlic chives. They're doing so great with all these beautiful bloom stalks, and so many pollinators are just loving this pot of flowers. I can't even tell you all the different types of bees and wasps and bumbles that are on there. And then across the fence, we also have our strawberries that we had replanted, and we have a pot of bunching onions, and I'm not sure what happened to those, but that water is saturated, and so I drilled some more holes in the side, hoping to alleviate that problem. This is some mallow and basil, and I will be transplanting a cabbage plant into that pot as soon as they get big enough. And there's the hibiscus, looking so pretty. I did not even know that was a hibiscus. I thought it was a weed, and so glad that it bloomed before I cut it out. And my roselle is beautiful, and I have hope that it's going to bloom soon because my friends' roselles are blooming and looking very healthy. So I hope to get a lot of calyxes this year. I want to try several different recipes with those. And that's our pot of noodle beans and basil. I believe there's some dill and some bronze fennel in that pot. The blue pot I just planted. You can see a bean at the back of there, and it has some herbs in, but it was the one that had the big weed, and I cut it out, so now the small stuff has a chance to thrive. And this is mallow. I need to harvest that. And this one is, I believe, basil and a sunflower. I'm going to be cutting that sunflower out because I need that pot. This is comfrey and asparagus, so we'll be leaving that one alone. That's blueberry on the left, and this one is, I planted a bunch of stuff in here, but nothing's come up except for the beans, and those are a pole bean, so they can climb up that fence on the back. Blueberry's doing really well, and I hope that it makes it to next year and gives us some fruit. This is our okra. It's not the most prolific, but it puts out a few pods every day for me, which is just enough for my dinner. I've got some more okra coming up that we planted about 3 weeks ago. And look at that grasshopper taking a free ride. Anyway, that okra is not producing yet, but I have high hopes. And that red okra is just such a pretty plant. I would love to have about 100-foot row of that. It's about too late to plant more okra in the garden right now, so we'll focus on our fall crops. There's that hibiscus that by the grace of God, planted itself in my garden. My noodle beans are kind of struggling, I think, because of the heat, but I'm hoping they'll come back to life. I did plant some red noodle beans, and see this pod, how thick it is and bulgy? I don't eat them when they're like that. I'm going to let those dry on the plant, and that will give me about 10 or 15 seeds for next year. But I'm still looking for signs of life for the red noodle beans. I may have to plant those again. That's the thing with planting so many things in so many different places, that sometimes I forget what I planted where, and I don't even know what to look for when it comes up. It's kind of crazy, but those beans aren't doing anything. They're just sitting there. I don't know if the grasshoppers have been eating the blooms off or what they're doing. Now this tomato plant, this beast, oh, I cut it out. There's two of them in there, a giant crimson and a porter, and I cut them out. They were covering 3 pots, and I need the space. I need to be able to plant food that I actually eat. So sadly, they got to go to the compost. And there I was just showing you the tomato hornworm had gotten a hold of that plant, but it didn't even put a dent in that plant. So, and this, I don't know if you can see it, but it's some kind of squash I planted. Hopefully a patty pan, because I sure do love a good patty pan squash. I'm watering before the rain, which a lot of people think is silly, but there's some of that okra. But I've always been told by my garden mentor to water a little bit lightly, just enough to wet the soil, and that way when the rain comes, your water will go down into the pot, and the soil won't be so hydrophobic. Thank y'all for watching and coming along on this little garden tour, and I will look forward to seeing you next time. I appreciate y'all. What seeds are you sowing?